Hello interwebs and welcome to my channel. So it should come as no surprise to a lot of you, but I am a gigantic film buff. I absolutely adore movies. I watch about like 5 or 6 a week on top of all the TV shows that I watch and all the work that I should be doing. That being said, the Oscars are coming up this weekend, and honestly, the Oscars are like my Super Bowl. I don't really care about sports that much, but like for Oscars, I literally will invite friends over, I'll cook a bunch of food, I'll make bets. I just love talking about the Oscars and all the politics involved and all the weird choices that they make. I by no means think that the Oscars are the best selection of movies for the year, but I just enjoy kind of like the politics around them and all the weird stuff that goes around with it, and sometimes the really terrible choices that the Oscars make. I don't know, I just love the whole thing of it. It's just a lot of fun for me. So since I just moved to Seattle a few months ago, I actually haven't had the chance to build up a huge friend group and stuff like that. So I'm actually not gonna be able to have my normal Oscar party that I normally would have every single year. So I figured, what a great way to have that same sort of fun and sort of conversation by opening it up to everyone on my YouTube channel to sort of jump in and have a lovely conversation on the Oscars. So because I've seen pretty much all of the major films that have come out for the Oscars this year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all of the Oscar categories, at least most of them. I'm gonna skip a few like documentary shorts and animated shorts and live action shorts, really just the shorts, because they're harder to see and I haven't gotten a chance to see a lot of the shorts. So I'm gonna go through each category and I'm going to list who I think is going to win, who I want to win out of the people that are nominated, and then who I want to win if I could pick any movie that exists out there that came out in 2018. That's gonna be a little bit fun. That's what we're gonna be doing today. Hope you guys enjoy. I got all the nominations and all my lists right on this handy dandy paper here, just so I don't forget, because, you know, as much as I like to pretend that I like know all this information that I sort of state at the camera, I really don't. I have to like make a whole script and list and things like that. I can't just like plop it out in front of you. That was an inappropriate way to phrase that. Well, I'll leave it in anyways. All right, the first category is visual effects. We have Avengers: Infinity War, Christopher Robin, First Man, Ready Player One, and Solo: A Star Wars Story. This one's a bit harder because Oscar nominations for visual effects have always been like weird and all over the place and not really consistent in any sort of way. But I think Ready Player One is going to win this one, just because I think there's so much going on in that film, and also I think the Academy is going to lean towards giving it towards Steven Spielberg. I mean, I know he's not the visual effects artist, but there's that name cloud of like, oh, this is a Spielberg movie, and also the visual effects are freaking fantastic, and there's basically all visual effects. That movie is pretty much entirely from the ground up just visual effects going on. So that required a lot of work to actually do that. So I think that that's who's gonna win it. But who I hope is gonna win is actually Avengers: Infinity War. I don't think Avengers is gonna win because the Academy has really kind of gone against Marvel films in almost every chance they have. I think this is actually their first nomination? Don't quote me on that. I think this might be a Marvel movie's first nomination in this category. I just think Avengers: Infinity War worked so well. I think Thanos was just brilliantly realized by Josh Brolin in a mo-capture performance, and you could just really feel for Thanos, which is very hard to do with, number one, a villain, and then number two, a character who's all in mocap. And obviously we've seen mocap villains before that we liked, like Gollum, for example, but there's just such depth to his performance, and you see that all on his face in so many moments throughout that film that it really just should go to Avengers: Infinity War. Plus there's some really cool like explosions and things like that, like Thor pulling the hammer and all that jazz. That was or the axe. That was really fun. If I could pick any movie though, it would be Annihilation. That movie floored me, especially with its visual effects. It was just such a trippy look to that movie. It's like these kind of slightly distorted lens and the like particles going on and like the rainbow effect, and then that wall, the shimmer that they walk through, and just the bear visual effect. It was just fucking terrifying, and the weeds growing out of Tessa Thompson's arms and stuff like that. It was just, and don't even get me started on the trippiest fuck ending of Annihilation. So I'm surprised that Annihilation didn't get a nomination at all, but I mean that movie just kind of was sadly forgotten by everybody. But that movie should have won this category. Next up, we have costume design. A Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Black Panther, The Favorite, Mary Poppins Returns, and Mary Queen of Scots. So who will win? Black Panther, I just don't think that anyone's gonna deny that that movie had amazing costumes that really drew from African history and black culture in such a celebratory way, such a nuanced way, and in such a vibrant way in so many ways. I don't think you could not give it to Black Panther, and that's also who I hope wins this category overall, while I do kind of like the favorites costumes as well. And if I could pick any, I would also, pick Black Panther. I will give a nod to the favorite because I thought their costumes were amazing, but you just can't go against Black Panther in this category. Makeup and hair. Border, Mary Queen of Scots, and Vice. So I haven't seen Border. I do want to see it. Sounds like a really cool sci-fi film, and it's nice to see a foreign film sort of get a nomination here. But if I had to pick what will win, probably Vice. The Academy really kind of likes movies where, white actor dresses up in a bunch of makeup and gains some weight and plays a dude. So I think last year with Churchill, that's that sort of makeup look. I just think the Academy is really going to give it to Vice because of the portrayal of Dick Cheney and just the makeup that was required there. If I was going to give it to anyone, I would give it to Mary Queen of Scots, just because they had a ton of makeup and doing a lot of fun stuff there. And if I could pick anyone, it would be the favorite. They did a great job. Original song, we have All the Stars from Black Panther, I'll Fight from RBG, The Place Where Lost Things Go from Mary Poppins, Shallow from A Star Is Born, and then When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings from Ballad of Buster Scruggs. What will win? It's Shallow. I mean, like, A Star Is Born is just, there's no way that's not gonna win. It's just an Academy darling. That movie was made to please the Academy. It's just exactly what the Academy wants. The song is good, and Lady Gaga's great. Loved Lady Gaga. If I was gonna pick anyone though to win it though, I would do it When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for Wings. That movie was such a weird, anachronistic, sort of fun picture. That song was just very joyous and a lot of fun and very humorous, but also kind of dark and scary. And came at such a weird moment in that film. That was just so strange to see him going off to heaven. It was just such a strange and unique song. And Shallow, while nice, is just kind of it's nice. It's a nice song. I don't really think about it much. It's that was a song that was good. Original score. BlacKkKlansman, Black Panther, If Beale Street Could Talk, Isle of Dogs, and Mary Poppins Returns. So what I think will win here, and this is kind of it's kind of hard to pick this one because I don't know much about the history of these score nominations, but I think it would probably go If Beale Street Could Talk or Isle of Dogs. I think if I had to lean towards one, I think it would probably go to Isle of Dogs just because that has such a unique Wes Anderson-y sound to it that is really memorable and folksy. I kind of hope that it doesn't though, because that movie is somewhat problematic, but I think that Isle of Dogs soundtrack really is such a unique one. If I had to pick any though from these categories, I would say Black Panther, just because it's the first Marvel score that I can remember being really memorable. And again, sort of that celebration of African and Black culture in such a unique way and mixing that into sort of the unique Marvel score sound. Marvel scores in general I find kind of bland. They're fine. The Avengers theme is really the only theme that makes me feel something in some way. Dun 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 dun. That's a great song, but other than that, they're just all forgettable. Can anyone tell me any, hum me a tune from any of the Marvel movies? But that sound from Black Panther, when you just hear those drums, when you enter Wakanda, so effective and so well done, and so well done throughout the entire movie. And also well done when it repeats itself in Avengers Infinity War, because that scene when they go to Wakanda and you just hear those drums come in, you're instantly yes, I'm so pumped to go to Wakanda. It's freaking great. And the fact that was so effective a musical moment in Infinity War speaks to how effective it was done in Black Panther. So I really think Black Panther should win this one. But if I could pick any, I think I would probably give it to Black Panther. But if I could pick something else to be somewhat different, I think it would be Assassination Nation. This is a small movie that I really loved. It kind of got forgotten, but its score actually weirdly stuck with me and haunted me. I remember leaving the theater and being I need that score. It was just such a driving score, but kind of eerie and dark that I really, really liked it, and I just instantly downloaded that score as soon as I could because it was just fantastic. Plus, it's sort of musical, the songs that they chose to use from pop music were also really, really strong for that film. So, Assassination Nation, great film, go see it. Production design, we got Black Panther, First Man, The Favorite, Mary Poppins Returns, and Roma. I think for this one, it might go to First Man, just because I think First Man isn't really going to get many nods in other categories, so that might make it people want to give it something here. And also Nathan Crowley, he's the one nominated for it. Nathan Crowley, fantastic production designer, known for a lot of Christopher Nolan films, but he's done a lot of films basically everywhere. Great production designer. And that being said, it might also go to Roma. The production design in Roma was such a central part of that story in so many ways, like that apartment and all the stuff in it, and such that when it kind of becomes bare later in the movie and how that space changes throughout the film, I think might actually put Roma ahead. Plus, Roma is another Academy darling. It's like Roma and A Star is Born are like the Academy darlings this year. So I might go to Roma. If I had to pick one, I would say probably First Man. And if I had anyone that I would hope would win, it would be The Favorite. The design in that, production design in that movie is just so meticulous. There's so much going on in it. It's just fantastic. It's a hard thing to do, especially in that sort of era, to have a production design that feels at once sort of ornate and a lot going on in it because it's such a over-the-top time, but then have it feel so precise and not cluttered. It's such a delicate balance there, because that kind of frame for a movie like that could easily become cluttered, and yet it never does, which is a really good testament to the production design there. But if I could pick any movie, it would be Paddington 2. Paddington 2, fantastic film. Absolutely loved it. I caught it at the tail end of last year because I just was like, Paddington 2, that sounds dumb. It's a kid's movie. I don't want to see it. In fact, when I watch kids' movies all the time. Paddington 2 is freaking phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. It like warms my heart, and that's something you don't get to say very often today. And the production design is just so, again, meticulous. The frame it feels very Wes Anderson-y in terms of production design, but it doesn't feel pretentious in the way that Wes Anderson can kind of feel. Feels very welcoming and homey in such a kind and caring way, in such a meticulous way. I love Paddington 2. Go see it. I'm gonna try and speed through a couple more of these because I know this video is gonna get long if I don't. Sound mixing: Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, Roma, A Star is Born. Will win. I think it's gonna be First Man, and I hope will win is First Man. Didn't really love First Man that much, but there's so many great moments of sound mixing in it that I think really deserve the attention. Though if I could pick any movie, I would pick Upgrade. This is a great movie that kind of got missed this year by a lot of people, and really is probably one of the best science fiction films of the year, honestly. The sound mixing in it is just so well done. So good. Super recommend seeing Upgrade with the movement of the camera and just his like movements going on. I would definitely give the sound mixing to Upgrade, just by far. Sound editing: Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, A Quiet Man, and Roma. What I think will win, probably Roma. Again, Academy darling, and the sound design is actually really good in there. I would pick out of any film this year, and also hope will win, is A Quiet Place. That movie did things with sound that I never really thought you could do with cinema. It felt like a silent movie, and yet it never was, and it made every intentional sound that happened on screen feel terrifying. And when you can make your sound design just viscerally be felt by the audience, and I know it's kind of built into the concept, but still, fantastic job. That movie lived or died on its sound design and sound editing, and it definitely delivered. So I really hope A Quiet Place wins. Probably won't, but I hope it does. All right, film editing: BlacKkKlansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Green Book, The Favorite, and Vice. What I hope will win and what I think will win will probably be Vice, though I think sometimes the Academy thinks that the most editing is the best editing, so the more edits something has, the better it is. But I think Vice will win because I think there's some really creative editing choices going on in that film that I think are really good. I don't think it's perfect. There's a couple things that I think go on a little bit too long that could have been cut, but I just think the fact that they were trying so many unique and interesting things with the editing in that movie that I really kind of want to give it to them for that, even if it's not as cohesive as some of the other movies on this list. But that's just me. But if I could pick any movie to win this category, it would be Searching. Great movie starring John Cho. Like, it all takes place on a computer screen in the vein of Unfriended, I think is the movie. The horror movies where it's all on a computer. I've seen both of them and I can't for the life of me remember the names. Anyways, moving on. All takes place on one computer screen, and they apparently only filmed that movie for like 1 month or less and then spent like 2 years editing it. And it shows. That movie is so brilliantly edited and so brilliantly paced. It's just fantastically done, and that movie is pretty much all done in the editing. It's all has to be done in the editing just to make it work. There's only a few scenes where John Cho's there. All right, this is one I don't really know much about, but I just have to say it because I think it couple things going on here. Will win Roma, hope will win Roma. Cold War has a chance of sneaking in and winning this, but I think because of the fact that Roma was nominated for Best Picture and Cold War wasn't. I mean, I think that just kind of tells that Roma's probably going to win that category. And it deserves it too, it's a great movie. If I could pick any movie, it would be Burning, a sort of a Korean film that was just really well done. Love that director. See Burning. I don't want to spoil too much about it because it's just a fantastic film. Best documentary feature. We have Free Solo, Hail Country This Morning, This Evening, Minding the Gap, A Fathers and Sons, and RBG. This is actually one of the first years where I've seen more than half of the best documentary feature nominations. I'm usually not that into documentaries, but I've been getting more into them recently. Not anything against them, I just kind of was just like, I like fiction better, but now I've been really kind of diving in. What I think will win is RGB. It deserves it, but I think also because of the politics behind that movie, I think will really propel it forward. And it's a great film, great look into RBG's life. That being said, I didn't find the movie to be particularly top-notch in terms of elevating the genre. A lot of interesting information in there, a lot of interesting stuff, but it kind of felt like, yeah, this is how you shoot and make a documentary. Nothing particularly special there. It was just kind of like in terms of the craft and display. Free Solo, though, and what I hope will win, because I think that movie really did some interesting things, just interesting shots, an interesting dive into something that I never would have thought about. Just great film that makes you actually feel the tension throughout that film as you worry for the main subject. Whereas like RBG, I never really worried for her, or never really felt, like I felt some like, yeah, let's, fuck Trump. But other than that, it's kind of like, that's kind of an easy emotion to instill in me at this point. Free Solo actually did something better, starting me being like not already sort of primed to accept the message. So I think Free Solo should win that. If I could pick any though, it's Won't You Be My Neighbor. Just the fact that this wasn't nominated shocks me. I've never cried so much at a movie than I did at Won't You Be My Neighbor. I actually saw it, left the theater, and immediately bought another ticket and went and saw it again because that movie was just so touching and exactly what I needed at the right moment, and it just hits you so many times. There's just so many times you're just like, oh, it just hurts your heart in such a beautiful but also painful way. Fred Rogers was just an amazing human being, and that movie manages to really kind of capture that essence of who he was. So I'm just shocked that that movie was not nominated, and it's 100% what I would pick for the win. Three Identical Strangers would also be one that I would also recommend, but Won't You Be My Neighbor should have won. Cinematography, Cold War, The Favorite, Never Look Away, Roma, and A Star Is Born. Now, I've already kind of talked about both of these films when I was talking about production design, but cinematography also applies in an interesting way because you have to kind of marry the production design with the cinematography. With a lot of these films this year, while the cinematography plays into the production design a lot, you can usually sort of separate the two, but this year almost all of the nominations, besides maybe A Star Is Born, really kind of rely heavily on production design and sort of using production design masterfully and sort of how you showcase it. And like I said, that's almost every movie, but this year in particular, there's just such a meticulously planned out production design that really kind of marries itself to the cinematography. The one that I think will win is Roma, again, cinema darling, but I think I would give it to The Favorite, kind of for the same reasons I talked about production design. Never feels cluttered, never feels overdone. If I could pick any cinematography though, I would have to give it to Hereditary. That movie's cinematography, fantastic. There's so much done with the frames in that film, just how they move you through different spaces and how you make you feel trapped, and so much tension built into so many shots. I don't want to spoil. If you haven't seen the movie, go see it, because there are just a few shots in that movie that just I've never seen elicit more dread in me than any film before. It's just there's one frame in particular that I'm thinking of in that movie where I'm just like, you see everything and yet you can't escape it, and it just drives you insane. It lets it sit just long enough where you're like, just do something, and it takes you a second to figure out what's wrong. You see something wrong and then you just have to sit in it for so long, but you have to find what's wrong first. That movie is so good. That cinematography and throughout the whole film, but that frame in particular, I just should have gotten nomination. Original screenplay: The Favorite, First Reformed, Green Book, Roma, and Vice. What I think will win will be The Favorite. It's just a well-crafted and such a well done script. That's what I hope will win as well. First Reformed may also get a nom here because Paul Schrader is, you know, kind of a name in this industry, and this is sort of one of his big breakthroughs in the Oscars, and so that might get him the win, and just people being like, here, finally get your Oscar. But I think The Favorite really is just such a well done and meticulously plotted movie that I think you kind of need to give it there. And it's also kind of the one I would give if I could pick any, but just to be different, I'll give a shout out to The Endless, which is a really great script. Private Life as well is another really great script. Sorry to Bother You would be the movie that I would pick if I could pick any movie. Such a unique script that came out of nowhere. I never would have thought of any of those things that happen in that script, but they work, they make perfect sense and yet no sense at all. And that's when you know you have a really great script on your hand. Like, a script should feel like it's inevitable but surprising. And that movie nailed it. Like, everything that happens in the movie, you're like, yes, that is inevitable. That's what should have happened in this movie. And you're kind of like, I never would have saw that coming. It's just it's not like a twist out of left field. It's a twist that makes perfect sense, but you just don't think about. And that's really the hand of a really strong screenwriter. Adapted screenplay, we have Ballad of Buster Scruggs, Black Klansman, Can You Ever Forgive Me, If Beale Street Could Talk, A Star Is Born. What I think will win is If Beale Street Could Talk, because I think a lot of people, that movie is fantastic, and it's kind of gotten the shaft this year, and so I could see it picking up a sort of a pity nomination or pity win here. But it really is a fantastic film. I hope Black Klansman will win. The movie is somewhat problematic in terms of what it's adapting, but I think that movie has such a strong message that resonates today that I think really kind of deserves the nod here, even understanding the problematic nature of what it's adapting. But if I could give anything to an adapted screenplay, I would give it to Annihilation. Again, another movie that just, I've said it already before, but that movie just got the shaft, and it's such a brilliant and well thought movie that really just feels like an updated version of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I know that sounds like a really high praise, and it meets it. That's not an overhype. It really feels like a 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a movie that, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's like, I'm so glad I watched it. Not sure if I can sit through it again, and in a good way. Annihilation, I think, is a bit more watchable than 2001: A Space Odyssey. 2001: A Space Odyssey I find kind of rather dull after a point. It's like, I loved it, it's great, I understand why it's such a fantastic film, but I never want to see it again because I just was bored, other than the Hal parts. That's the only part of that movie that really, like, I'm like, oh, I actually am interested in what's happening. Don't worry, I love 2001: A Space Odyssey, harder film to watch. But Annihilation, I think, is better. I think I'll just mention a couple shout-outs here. I Kill Giants, Boy Erased, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, all movies that had great adapted screenplays. Speaking of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, animated features: Incredibles 2, Isle of Dogs, Mirai, I hope I'm saying that right, Ralph Breaks the Internet, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Now, I have the same answer for all three of these. What I hope will win, what will win, and anything that I want to win is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You see a frame of that movie, even without Spider-Man in it, and you know it's that movie. They created their own animation style, which is not something easy to do in today's day and age. We've explored cinema for over 100 years. It's just such a visually distinct film, and then on top of that, it's just so well written. You rarely see a film where the style matches the content. It looks like a comic book, it feels like a comic book, and it says something that comic books can say. And it tells a story that is just insane enough to be a comic book story, and it still works as a feature film. The only thing that I think might work against it is the Academy's Pixar love. The Academy has shown a lot of love for Pixar in the past. I could see them kind of rolling with it because they do kind of like establishment. But I think Incredibles 2, while a great film, blown out of the water by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So gotta give it to them. We're getting into the big heavy hitters now. Director, Spike Lee. I'm gonna screw this up. Paul Likowski. I am so American, it's a problem. Director of Cold War. Yorgos Lanthimos for The Favorite. Alfonso Cuarón. Adam McKay for Vice. Alfonso Cuarón for Roma, Adam McKay for Vice. First things first, a lot of like really foreign directors here. Yes, they've been working in Hollywood for a while, but a lot of directors that are not American here, which is freaking fantastic. Who I think will win? I think Alfonso Cuarón will win. He's an Academy darling. Everyone loves Roma. It's sort of his most personal film that he's ever made, which I think will really kind of elevate it as well, and it deservedly so. Who I hope will win, though, is Spike Lee. Black Klansman was a great movie, and also Spike Lee has been a great filmmaker for decades now and has left such a distinct mark on cinema and American culture really in general that it's surprising that I believe this is his first ever Oscar nomination. That's shocking to me. And so I'm so glad to have him back at the top of his game with this film, with such an important message and such a gut-wrenching ending. He also might have set it up in the editing category too, without spoiling too much. Spike Lee, I hope, really wins this. It'd be such an important statement, especially right now. But if I could give it to any director, I would be giving it to Boots Riley for Sorry to Bother You. I'm gonna talk about it later, hint, hint. But Sorry to Bother You, fantastic, amazing movie. I'm gonna talk about it more later, but Boots Riley, I think, deserves so much credit for the uniqueness of that movie. It just shocking how fantastic that film is. Supporting actress, Amy Adams for Vice, Maria de Tavira, I'm again so American, for Roma, Regina King, If Beale Street Could Talk, Emma Stone for The Favorite, Rachel Weisz for The Favorite. Who I think will win, Rachel Weisz, just because her performance was fantastic in The Favorite. If I could give it to anyone on this list, though, I would give it to Emma Stone. Love Emma Stone, and I love seeing her in this movie having such an interesting subversive performance. Not to spoil too much, but you come in on the movie really on her side because it's Emma Stone, and you really believe in her, and her performance really makes you feel for her. And then she just slowly over the course of that movie just twists it just enough that you really are like, oh, I should not have been on her side. But you get there slowly, and it's just a fantastic, nuanced performance by her. Everyone in the movie has such great performances, but I think Emma Stone really kind of deserves it here. But I think because she's won fairly recently, and Rachel Weisz, she did a great job in this movie, I think she'll get it. If I could pick anyone, Tessa Thompson for Sorry to Bother You. She's just a tour de force and just a fantastic character in that film. I think I'd probably give it to Emma Stone, really, if I could give it to anyone, but Tessa Thompson in that movie, I think at least deserves a shout out. Supporting actor, Mahershala Ali in Green Book, Adam Driver for Black Klansman, Sam Elliott for A Star Is Born, Richard E. Grant, Can You Ever Forgive Me, and Sam Rockwell for Vice. I'm honestly shocked by half of these nominations. As much as I love Sam Elliott, and not to knock his performance, but like, there was no moment in A Star Is Born where like, that performance deserves an Oscar. Love Sam Elliott, I think he's an amazing actor that deserves an Oscar. Who I think will win is probably Mahershala Ali, again, Academy darling, and his performance in Green Book is really, really great. As much as I have a problem with that film in general, for many reasons, his performance in that film is great. He portrays such a great, quiet dignity in that movie, but also allows you to sort of break free at some points and see who he is inside. So great performance, and I think he will win that one. But I hope will win Sam Rockwell. He did a great job in Vice, making me see him as George Bush. He's not someone who I would have thought as George Bush to play George Bush, but you can see that in him. But also, instead of just being a caricature, you really actually feel for Bush at a couple points in the movie, which surprised me. And the movie definitely has a point of view and is definitely not a fan of Bush or Dick Cheney, but he does manage to make it empathetic every once in a while, which is actually fascinating and difficult to do with a movie that really is anti-Bush and anti-Dick Cheney. So, good on him. If I can give it to anyone, though, I would give it to Mari Hardwick for Sorry to Bother You. If you don't know who that is he was the person who had the eye patch over his eye for that movie. Fantastic performance. I know you didn't hear his voice for most of the movie because it was Patton Oswalt, which actually I think goes to show how strong his performance was. He was just such a great performance by him in that movie. I'm giving a lot of praise to Sorry to Bother You in these top categories if you hadn't noticed. Also a shout out to Russell Crowe in Boy Erased. There's a couple scenes in Boy Erased that I really think were very powerful acting showcases for Russell Crowe. Specifically, the last scene of the movie, and there's a scene in the middle where he learns his son is gay. That also I think is a very powerful scene by Russell Crowe. So, and the movie kind of hinges on his performance in a lot of spots. So I think he really kind of deserves a shout out, if not the person that I would give the win to. Lead actress, Yalitza Aparicio for Roma, Glenn Close for The Wife, Olivia Colman, The Favorite, Lady Gaga, A Star Is Born, Melissa McCarthy for Can You Ever Forgive Me. And who will win? Glenn Close. She deserves the Oscar. Everyone loves her. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to speak too much about it, but Glenn Close is going to win the Oscar. Olivia Colman is who I hope would win for The Favorite. She played such a fantastic queen. You got to see her like go through so many emotions and such a range in that film. All of them hitting hard, and all of them you really believe. She goes from ecstatic and over the top to just depths of depression and despair, but all of it feels real and believable and uniquely that character. So I really think she should win that one. If I could pick any, Toni Collette for Hereditary kicked it out of the park. Not that horror movies can't have great performances, but this feels like an Oscar-worthy performance of just great acting, great monologues, great scenes. Toni Collette deserves at least the nod for that movie, but again, horror probably not the Academy's taste in some years, and sometimes we get out, but whatever. I'll also make mention of Charlize Theron. Charlie also did a great job, and Elsie Fisher in 8th grade also deserves a nod. I'm sad that she didn't even get thought of here, and I'm sorry that 8th grade kind of got locked out. Lead actor, Christian Bale for Vice, Bradley Cooper, A Star is Born, Willem Dafoe at Eternity's Gate, Rami Malek, Bohemian Rhapsody, Viggo Mortensen for Green Book. A lot of problematic movies in there with Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book. Who I think will win? Christian Bale. I mentioned it before. Academy loves that type of performance. Put on a bunch of weight, get on a fat suit, and you pretty much are guaranteed an Oscar. Not to disparage his performance though, Christian Bale did a great job. He fell into Cheney. If you told me that was Dick Cheney on screen, I almost would believe you. He really embodied that man, from his breath to his movements to just his body type. You really felt like he was Dick Cheney. Fantastic. And he probably deserves to win. If I could give it to someone else, maybe Rami Malek. I love Rami. Did a great job playing the lead singer of Queen. I have such problematic feelings in that movie because of Bryan Singer that I really just don't want it to win anything. And that's an sorry to Rami Malek. Great guy, great performance. I really hope that this sets him off into a really brilliant career that he deserves and has deserved for so long. Just the politics of that movie, I really just don't want to give anything to Bohemian Rhapsody. Not that I have any power here. Whatever. If I could pick any, I think Paul Giamatti in Private Life gave a really strong performance. Heartbreaking in a lot of spots. Ethan Hawke for First Reformed also would be a good shout-out mention. First Reformed is a great movie. Ethan Hawke gave a great performance. I think I would probably give it to Paul Giamatti if I can give it to anybody. Before I get to Best Picture, I also want to mention the Academy never nominates any comedies, and I saw some really great comedies this year. Not as many as a lot of years, but I want to mention 3 comedies just to give a shout out, so I won't spend too much time on it because this video is already too long. Game Night, Death of Stalin, and Blockers. Great movies all around. If I had to pick a best comedy this year, Game Night. I was dying with laughter at Game Night. So many great moments in there. Hilarious. Go see it if you like comedies. Fantastic movie. Best Picture, Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, a lot of B movies. The Favorite, Green Book, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice. Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody being these categories is upsetting. Go look into, I'm not gonna go into it here, but go into look through their respective controversies. Decent movies overall, but really shouldn't have gotten a nomination. I know politics shouldn't enter necessarily into just liking a movie, but it's all politics, especially these days, and Oscars is just all politics, honestly. As much as I love sort of rewarding the best movies and thinking the best movies should win, a lot of Oscars is just politics going on. And that's part of the fun in some years. And this year, it's a little less fun because of those 2 movies. That's just sadly the truth. I think Roma is going to win. Everyone loves Alfonso Cuarón. It's such an interesting, unique, personal movie. It's definitely in the Academy's vein and yet very modern as well in such an interesting way. I personally did not love Roma. There's a lot of things that I love about Roma, but as a cohesive whole, it's not something I love, but I really think it's what's gonna win the Best Picture. What I hope will win is, out of all these nominations, while Black Klansman might be one of the ones that I would pick, I think I have to give it to The Favorite. Such a cohesive, great movie that feels very dramatic, very interesting, queer representative, which I adore, and hysterical. I'm not usually a fan of that director overall. I did not like The Lobster. I thought it was a bit pretentious and not that funny. I did like The Killing of the Sacred Deer, but I didn't adore it. But The Favorite, I think, masterful movie. If I could give it to anything, I'll give one shout out here because I want to end on this other movie. If I could shout out anything, 8th Grade deserved a nomination. And so did Beale Street Could Talk for that matter, but 8th Grade also deserved a nomination. But if I could pick any movie to win Best Picture, it would be Sorry to Bother You. I know, shocking considering all the stuff I said earlier. Sorry to Bother You, fantastic fantastic film. I was surprised. I made a list of all my favorite films, which I'll kind of put up at the end here. As I was making it, I thought, oh, Sorry to Bother You will be up there, but I don't think it'll be number one. And I kept coming back to it, and I just couldn't put another movie above it. When I walked in that movie, it was funny, heartbreaking, thought-provoking, surprising in a different way, in a unique way, used filmmaking in a way that, to say something that only films could say. Just a fantastic film, and the fact that it was a directorial debut for Boots Riley just makes me so excited to see where he goes. That movie deserved a nod, at least in any capacity. There's so many places that movie could have been nominated. Editing, you know, cinematography, directing, anything, and it didn't get anything at all, and that shocks me. Probably because of, again, money and politics. Probably didn't make as much money as other films, probably didn't get seen as much as other films, and obviously it's sort of the way it tells the story is a bit out there for some people. But I just cannot say enough how much I love Sorry to Bother You. And that's it for this video. Sorry it's gone so long, so I'll kind of wrap up quickly. I'll just put up right up on the screen right here all my favorite movies from this year. So if you guys are like, what did Jesse like outside of the Oscar nominations and Sorry to Bother You? Those are the ones right there. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna wrap this up quickly. If you liked this video and you wanna see more, if you're interested in science fiction or queer LGBT education, that's a lot of what I do in film discussions and reviews. I'm also a huge Trekkie. If you like any of that stuff, please consider giving a subscribe to my channel. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching.